23-year-old Kelli Bordeaux was a combat medic here in Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
And her baffling disappearance would shock residents of Fayetteville, the quiet little southern town that Fort Bragg put on the map.
It's gripping because it is a young lady who is just starting out on life, and she's like any other 20-something-year-old who's gonna go and have a good time, hang out with some friends, and not a hint that anything could happen the way it did.
Making this mystery all the more compelling that Kelli was hardly your profile soldier. A former high school cheerleader and beauty queen whose good looks had always made her a magnet for male suitors, her older brother and sister were constantly having to fight off.
Boys were like trying to flirt with her. Oh, they'd pick her up and I'd just look at them and they knew, put her down, like don't touch her again.
And Kelli's gregarious, fun-loving personality also made her one of the most popular girls in her hometown of St. Cloud, Florida.
She would become friends with people and see the best in them instantaneously.
She just seemed like an all-American kind of girl who just enjoyed having a good time.
But Nancy McCleary, a staff writer with the Fayetteville Observer, says the petite 5'1" blonde was also as tough as nails.
There was a spirit about her that seemed independent, feisty.
That, along with the passion for adventure and a dream of seeing the world, is what made the military a natural calling for her.
She had went to college prior, but she wanted something more, I think.
A good challenge, a good opportunity.
Yeah, challenge for sure.
And Kelli becoming a combat medic also satisfied Kelli's desire to help people.
I mean, you're putting yourself on the line, trying to save others.
Kelli had been stationed at Fort Bragg for only a couple of months since completing basic training and boot camp. And her husband of less than 2 years, Mike Bordeaux, had moved with her from St. Cloud, Florida, the couple settling into an off-base apartment together.
But there were problems in their relationship, is that right?
Yeah, I mean.
They were young.
Yeah.
Well,
like
it was
with any
never,
young-
yeah.
Dave Marshburn, a private eye who conducted his own investigation into Kelli's disappearance, says the stress of adjusting to a new life in another state would put their marriage under even more pressure. With Mike unable to find a job and drinking heavily,
She just had enough of it.
the couple would decide to take a trial break from each other. Mike returning home to Florida and Kelli remaining alone in Fayetteville, where she knew nobody other than her fellow soldiers at Fort Bragg.
It's also a lot of trying to figure out your place in Fort Bragg and with your unit there and your company there and seeing who your friends are there.
But the private life of Private First Class Kelli Bordeaux was about to get complicated. For about a year, Kelli had been having an affair with a secret boyfriend named Justin Thompson, whom she'd met back in St. Cloud, Florida, before joining the military.
Do you think Kelli really liked Justin?
Oh yeah.
Sister Olivia says Kelli liked Justin so much, she had decided to divorce Mike, who had no idea his estranged wife already had a new man.
I think the plan was eventually, like, once she was officially on paper divorced, is Justin come and be there and see what the relationship can turn into.
But ironically, it would be during one of Justin's weekend visits to Fayetteville that Kelli would meet yet another suitor. Nick Holbert, who worked as a helper at a local bar called Froggy Bottoms, where Kelli and Justin had gone for drinks.
Nick gave her his telephone number and tried to befriend her. Do you think he was interested in her?
Oh, yes.
But P.I. Marshburn says Kelli thought of Nick only as a drinking buddy at Froggy Bottoms after boyfriend Justin had returned home to Florida.
Nick offered the week before to bring her back out there, and she accepted.
Returning to Froggy Bottoms with him the following Friday night.
Right before she went out, she just said, "Hey, does this look okay?" and sent me a picture of her. And I was like, "Yeah, you look cute."
It would turn out to be the last photo of Kelli, who would never be seen again after leaving Froggy Bottoms later that night with Nick Holbert.
That last picture of her is haunting.
On the Friday night she disappeared, Private First Class Kelli Bordeaux had been excited about going out to have some fun after another hard week at Fort Bragg.
I was like, "Okay, have fun. Be careful. I'll talk to you tomorrow."
Everything seemed normal.
Oh yeah.
Kelli wouldn't drink and drive, so her new acquaintance, Nick Holbert, had given her a ride to Froggy Bottoms, where he worked as a general helper.
Went and picked her up and went back to the bar. Played pool, drank, sung karaoke. Everything was going good.
Kelli had even told boyfriend Justin Thompson, who was living in Florida, that Nick was taking her to the bar. And Justin, who met Nick with Kelli at the bar just a week earlier, wasn't happy about it.
I said to be afraid of Nicholas. I told her he was creepy.
And what did she say?
She's like, I'll be fine. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, I don't know. I even texted her that night before she left. I was like, you better bring your pepper spray.
Private Eye David Marshburn, who conducted his own investigation of the Kelli Bordeaux case, says Nick considered their night at Froggy Bottoms a date, but Kelli didn't.
She was there to have fun. That's all it was. She was there as a friend. He was there as trying to be a boyfriend.
But Kelli just thought of him as a drinking buddy.
They went to the bar, and she basically didn't pay him any attention. She was singing, cutting up, flirting with other guys, you know, just being friendly.
Kelli would leave Froggy Bottoms with Nick sometime after midnight.
She had had a few drinks at this point.
Right. But she wasn't drunk. Her bar tab wasn't enough to make somebody dizzy.
Nick would later tell cops that he dropped Kelli off near her apartment. And boyfriend Justin received a text from Kelli's cell phone later that night reading, quote, "Got home safe, I'm going to bed, call me tomorrow."
It was so weird. She just like the text message before that was, hey, call me, call me, call me.
He did, constantly, all weekend, to no avail.
You can't get a hold of your
Can't get a hold of
girlfriend.
her.
You're calling her, you're texting her,
happens.
nothing's happening.
So he alerted Kelli's family.
And he's like, no, something's up. Something happened, like something's going on, and he knew immediately.
Then when Kelli doesn't report for duty at Fort Bragg on Monday morning, and there's no sign of her at the apartment, friends, family, and Army brass really get worried.
That's not Kelli, especially not Kelli. She's a soldier, and that's always first and foremost. Her superiors knew that this wasn't a soldier that went AWOL.
Kelli is reported missing to police, and a massive search is mounted.
I did the first interview with the media and was just begging and crying and just begging for anybody who knew anything. My sister was missing and I needed help finding her.
The search efforts were tremendous.
I mean,
Search.
four-wheelers,
You know,
horseback,
helicopters,
people in
all
boats.
the assets you can imagine.
They called for volunteers to come out and help search, and I think it was around 500 people showed up.
Among them, Nick Holbert and Kelli's estranged hubby, Michael, who, along with her boyfriend, Justin, were the cops' main persons of interest.
In most of these cases, they're going to look at anyone who is connected to this person, especially anyone who's having a relationship.
They broke it down in like a circle. So they said, Kelli's in the middle. We're going to look at the people closest to her first.
And because Nick was the last known person to see Kelli before she vanished, he was immediately under heavy suspicion.
I think right off the bat, Holbert was.
As soon as we knew that
That's the
Holbert was the
main
last
suspect.
person to see her,
But it seemed like everyone in Fayetteville had their own idea of who might have had something to do with Kelli's disappearance.
I thought it was Mike,
Why did you think it was
because
Mike?
it's always the husband or the estranged husband.
So you weren't even looking at anyone else. You were thinking at
No,
that time.
in the back of my mind, it was Mike Bordeaux.
that's her spouse, and they're separated, and it's questionable.
Staff writer Nancy McCleary of the Fayetteville Observer says she found Mike's behavior suspicious after he'd rushed up from Florida to join the search for Kelli.
He was very distraught, very emotional.
The police were reportedly also highly suspicious of Mike.
The police department's person of interest, number one person of interest, and I do know this for a fact, was the husband, not Nick.
Mike had provided police with a verified alibi that he was at his home in St. Cloud, Florida, hundreds of miles from Fayetteville, North Carolina, when his estranged wife disappeared. But Nancy McCleary says there was widespread talk among local media that it was still possible for him to have slipped into Fayetteville and harmed Kelli.
It was about a 6-hour drive, and we figured that given that she had last been seen leaving the bar between midnight and 2 a.m. and that she wasn't discovered missing until much later, that gives him ample time
to get down there.
to get down there and get back.
But Michael Bordeaux had his own suspect in mind.
The first name I heard of was Justin.
The other man who had won his wife's affection away from him.
Had you ever met Justin?
No.
Private First Class Kelli Bordeaux had been keeping an intimate and perilous secret. The beautiful 23-year-old soldier had been having an extramarital affair for more than a year. And her husband, Michael, didn't have a clue.
So you didn't know about anything up until that point?
Right.
Until he and the other man in the love triangle, Justin Thompson, both found themselves persons of interest when Kelli went missing.
The detective was the first person to tell me about it.
Now, in exclusive interviews with Crime Watch Daily, each of them talks for the first time about loving the same woman and living under a cloud of suspicion after Kelli's mysterious disappearance.
I feel like I have to think about it on the daily just because this is the saddest I've ever been about it. I don't know what you do to me, but it's tough.
I mean, everything. She was like a dream girl, really. So.
Michael Bordeaux had fallen in love with Kelli at first sight.
As soon as I saw her, I was just like, yeah, I know. She's special. She's special. I knew it.
And the two would be married in their hometown of St. Cloud, Florida, despite some family misgivings when they were in their early 20s.
They were both so young.
But Kelli and Mike made a nice-looking couple.
We were living fine. We were happy. We weren't broke. We were doing pretty good.
Then, just 3 months after the wedding, they hit the first bump in their young marriage when Kelli decided she wanted to pursue a career in the military.
I didn't like it because I didn't want to lose her to the military. I didn't want her going overseas.
But a determined Kelli wouldn't be deterred.
She was just thinking about her future. She kept telling me that. She was like, it's our future.
And Kelli would leave Mike at home in Florida while she went away to basic training and boot camp.
That was like 8 or 9 months that I didn't have her at all.
The two would finally be together again when Kelli was assigned to Fort Bragg in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Mike moved there with her, hoping to start a family.
I wanted a baby, and she thought she wanted a baby.
But Mike had no job and a bad drinking problem.
And you admit to that?
I am a big alcoholic. I was really bad.
And Kelli had a change of mind.
She didn't want a baby anymore.
It appeared Kelli didn't want Mike anymore either.
She needed to take a break. That's what I thought.
And he moved back to Florida.
You thought you guys were on a break?
I thought not even like a breakup, like just give me
space.
Give me a 2 weeks or a month, or and I didn't have a problem with that. I said, I will give you whatever you need because I want to be with you forever.
What Mike didn't know was that his wife wanted their separation to be permanent so she could be with Justin Thompson, her secret other man. And like Mike, Justin Thompson had also fallen in love with the gorgeous Kelli when they first met at a bar.
She was just bright, more bubbly, louder. I could hear her voice over the crowd, So I just...
She stood out in a crowd.
Yeah.
You didn't know she was married at the time?
No, she didn't have a ring on. And it was funny because we were hanging out and one of her friends told me that she was married. And I was like, what? I was like, well, I don't care. It's not my problem.
Justin was not only impressed by Kelli's beauty and sparkling personality, but also her brave decision to become a combat medic in the Army.
I don't know how you would want to choose that because you can go to anything you want to. She chose medic. I was like, golly, man.
After dating Kelli for about a year and with Mike finally out of the picture, Justin was about to take his place in Kelli's life in Fayetteville.
I was about to live up there.
And Kelli was said to have been planning to divorce Mike with the view of possibly marrying Justin.
So you guys were serious?
Yeah, we kicked that Mike out, so he was they were done.
But Kelli would mysteriously go missing, just as Justin was prepping to move to Fayetteville to be with her. And investigators naturally speculated that Mike had perhaps learned Kelli had been having an affair and killed her out of jealousy.
I did have to look at the husband.
But Mike insists he didn't learn Kelli was in love with another man until detectives told him when they questioned him.
I just didn't want to hear it. didn't want to believe any of this was real.
When you heard the name Justin, what did you think? Had you ever heard this name?
No, I have not.
And Mike says Kelly's affair with Justin was the least of his concerns.
Whatever was happening, I don't care about that. That's not what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out where my wife is. I'm trying to find out anything and everything to do with that.
But he also had suspicions that the man who stole his wife might have had something to do with her disappearance.
The first name I heard of was Justin.
And police wonder if Justin and Kelli may have had a lover's tiff, perhaps after she told him she was going out drinking with Nick Holbert. Nick was a bar helper they'd both met while drinking at Froggy Bottoms when Justin visited Kelli in Fayetteville just a week before she went missing. And he would be the last known person to see her alive after leaving the very same bar with her.
He was really strange. He's like his eyes. He was always like staring. He's like, I don't know.
Staring
it's hard
at
to
you?
explain. Me, her.
Police not only wondered if Justin may have been angry enough to kill Kelli, they also questioned why he never contacted police for 3 days after she went missing. But Justin says he had in fact been calling police since the day after Kelli disappeared.
Nobody's listening to me. It's nuts. I can't believe. Let's go home.
When was your first call to police?
Saturday.
So you call back again on Sunday.
After being repeatedly rebuffed, he says he decided to try one last time.
At what point do you pull the plug and say, I have to make a call?
Monday.
And Justin says police finally took his missing persons report seriously.
And I was like, yeah, well, you know, a couple days ago it could have been nice. So, man, I haven't cried like this in a while.
It's okay.
And like everybody else involved in the case, Justin had his own suspect.
Did you think Mike had something to do with this?
Truthfully, no. In my head, everybody that was close had like something to do with it, but
You didn't think he had anything to do with it?
he's too much of a emotional lovey-dovey. Even though emotional people like react crazy sometimes, he would always have that hope that he could get Kelli back before he would try to get rid of her on his own.
Justin pointed the finger at Nick Holbert, the man who was trying to steal Kelli away from him.
I knew it was him from the beginning. When I talked to the detectives, I knew it was him.
Police believe that one of the 3 men in the private life of Private First Class Kelli Bordeaux had something to do with her mysterious disappearance.
I think they were just looking at us three.
Mike Bordeaux, Kelli's recently estranged husband. Justin Thompson, a secret boyfriend she'd been having an extramarital affair with for more than a year. And Nicholas Holbert, a new acquaintance said to be trying to steal Kelli away from Justin.
Do you think he was interested in her?
Oh, yes.
But cops had no evidence to connect any of them to Kelli going missing. Both estranged husband Mike and Kelli's boyfriend Justin had provided alibis that they were each hundreds of miles away in St. Cloud, Florida when Kelli disappeared in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And Nick Holbert, the last known person to see Kelli before she vanished, had told police he dropped her off near her apartment after an evening of drinking at a Fayetteville bar called Froggy Bottoms.
You know, everything was going good.
His story was supported by a text boyfriend Justin received from Kelli's cell phone later that night, telling him she had arrived home safely.
It was so weird. The text message before that was, hey, call me, call me, call me.
Justin was unable to reach Kelli again and suspected Nick had harmed her.
I knew it was him from the beginning. When I talked to the detectives, I knew it was him.
And Justin wasn't the only one.
I actually happened to see Nick Holbert on TV doing his interview on Kelli Bordeaux.
Pleading with the public for information on her whereabouts while he was out looking for her with hundreds of other searchers.
And I told my wife, I said, look, he's lying.
How did you know?
I'm like a human lie detector just about. I can just tell when people are feeding me BS. I do it all the time. I feed people BS like you wouldn't believe, but it's
You're a
for my
talker.
job.
David Marshburn is a private detective who's hunted down hundreds of fugitives wanted for jumping bail, and he was determined to go after Nick and solve the Kelli Bordeaux mystery.
I told my wife, I said, I want to see if I can find this girl. I can find somebody that's on the run, but finding somebody just sitting still, that's going to be another task.
You just wanted to go out on your own and try to figure this out if you could.
Right.
Marshburn's suspicions about Nick would only grow when he learned he was a homeless drifter living in his truck in a makeshift camp behind Froggy Bottoms, where he worked as a bar hand. And then police would discover Nick was a convicted sex offender who had molested and beaten a 5-year-old girl when he was 16.
Did he rape
You know,
her?
that I don't know. I know he beat her so badly that I was told she was still in a wheelchair.
Marshburn says Nick was also a predator when it came to females of any age.
He was just so pervertedly interested in women. It was crazy.
It was like an obsession.
It was like a psycho.
Police still couldn't link Nick to Kelly's disappearance, but they did manage to put him behind bars for a year for failing to register as a sex offender in Fayetteville.
So while he was in jail, the only thing I could do is go possibly put areas to where Nick had been. And I wound up working hundreds of hours searching woods, searching ponds, searching lakes, everything.
When Marshburn fails to find any trace of Kelly's body, he devises a plan to befriend Nick when he gets out of jail and trick him into telling what he knows about Kelly's disappearance.
I had to be his best friend. I had to be a good friend to him.
Do you befriend him right away?
I do. When he answered the door, I said, Nick, I'm David Marshburn, I'm a PI. I'd like to talk to you about Kelly. I don't believe you done it.
You told him that?
Yeah, told him right out the gate. But I believe you could help me to clear your name so we could find her.
You had your strategy mapped out.
I did. I had it in 3 stages. You didn't have nothing to do with it. You might have had to do something with it. You did it. By the end of that you did it stage, I was accusing him of doing it and he won't deny it.
Marshburn would start by literally buying Nick's friendship and trust.
What did you do?
Well, the guy was down on his luck. He needed money. And if I gave him money, he would keep wanting to see me, whether I talked to him about Kelly or not. I mean, there was some times where I would be eating dinner with my family. He'd call and say, I don't have anything. I need some cigarettes. I need to eat. And I'd drop what I was doing, leave my family, and go an hour away just to give him some money.
But months would go by without a frustrated Marshburn getting any information out of Nick about Kelly's disappearance.
I almost was to the point to take him, and you can ask anybody that's close to me, exactly what I said. I wanted to take him to a barn somewhere, start cutting his fingers off until he told me where the hell she was. Now that's how mad I was. I was so close, but yet he wouldn't give it to me. He's such a not to tell me what he'd done with her. And I had done so much for him.
But Marshburn persisted, trying all kinds of ploys. One of them convincing Nick he'd worked out a deal with prosecutors and presenting him with a fake plea bargain he drew up himself.
He's gonna tell he committed murder. He killed Kelly. He's gonna apologize for it. He's gonna get mental health for it. He's gonna stay in like an apartment complex where he'll have a computer to work on.
He's believing this?
Yes, wholeheartedly. He took it and looked at that and stared at it and read it over and over. And then all of a sudden he paused for a little bit and then handed it back to me and said, I'm not gonna sign it, they'll just take it back.
But the mere fact that Nick considered the deal was proof to Marshburn that he was responsible for Kelly's disappearance.
At that point, 2 months into talking to him, that gave me the concrete evidence that now I gotta get it out of him.
Wily private detective David Marshburn was just one more sneaky trick away from solving the Kelli Bordeaux mystery.
I was so close, but yet he wouldn't give it to me.
After befriending Nick Holbert and winning his trust, Marshburn had already learned enough to know he'd killed the beautiful 23-year-old GI. And Marshburn had almost got Nick to sign a phony deal that falsely promised him a slap on the wrist for confessing.
He would get probation and rehabilitation.
But when Nick backs out at the last minute, Marshburn comes up with a new ruse.
And it was a tough one because it's a maybe, it's a what if.
Still, he had a hunch it would work.
It was the indictment that would get him.
This time, Marshburn convinces Nick he's about to be indicted for Kelly's murder.
The reason why I wanted to do an indictment is because I don't understand indictments. A lot of people don't unless you're in the legal realm. So an indictment will be easy to BS about and hard for him to understand.
The crafty PI shows Nick a fake indictment he'd drawn up himself and gets him thinking he's under police surveillance.
So I put a bondsman outside his house in a Crown Vic, and he sees the Crown Vic. He said, "I told you, man, they're watching me. They're watching me."
Nick is scared.
This is
They're
going down.
They're coming after me. They got something.
Nick is suddenly ready to sign the earlier fake plea deal, accepting the phony offer of a hand slap sentence in return for a confession. And he agrees to lead Marshburn to Kelli's body, buried in a wooded area near his makeshift camp behind Froggy Bottom's bar.
As soon as we pull into Froggy Bottoms, I can't even get the darn thing in park, and he's jumping out and going straight back to where he killed her.
Now Marshburn is finally about to learn the answers he's been seeking for the 2 years since Kelli went missing.
And I walk over there to him, and I put my hand up on his shoulder, and I said, "Nick, are you ready to tell me?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you do something to Kelli?" He said, "Yes."
And hours later, at the crime scene, Nick would also confess to Detective Jeff Locklear of the Fayetteville Police Department.
So I just snapped and zoned out and hit her.
And somewhere between what Nick tells Detective Locklear and what he'd earlier confessed to David Marshburn, there lies the truth about what he did to Private First Class Kelli Bordeaux.
His exact words were, "While I was on top of her, she started screaming."
Nick's confession begins on that Friday night that he took Kelli to Froggy Bottoms, where he was working as a bar hand.
I mean, went and picked her up. We went back to the bar. Played pool, drank, sung karaoke. Everything was going good.
So as the night went on, she was ready to go home. She went to go pay her bar tab.
That's when she started acting kind of funny towards me.
Nick went ahead and went outside and was waiting at his car. And while she was paying her tab, the bartender told her, "Be careful of this guy, he's a sex offender." And she had no idea. And when she came out, she went down the sidewalk of the Froggy Bottoms. She passes Nick's car and passes him, and she's walking home. And says, "Hey, I thought I was taking you home."
She said, "Nah, you child molester," or something like that.
So he ran up behind her
And hit her, knocked her out, and I stuck her in the car and took her back to where I stayed at.
What happens there?
He gets out, he pulls her out and lays her on the ground. He pulls her clothes off. He goes ahead and starts having sex with her. And
He's raping her.
right, because his exact words were, "While I was on top of her, she started screaming."
And I got scared. I didn't want nowhere to hear her, so I hit her again.
And he grabbed a rock and just beat her in the head with it. And
Is she dead at this point?
after a few seconds, yeah, she was dead.
And then what did he tell you he did?
He wrapped her head up with a trash bag.
Then what? And I pulled in here. I went, took her over there and buried her. And I left and went back to the bar. Stayed at the bar.
Now, remember that text Kelli's boyfriend Justin had received from her phone on the night she disappeared, saying she had arrived home safely? Well, Nick admitted that he had sent that message and disposed of her phone after he'd already killed her.
When Nick confessed, he told us as he was going over the river, he threw her phone in.
Nick Holbert had confessed to murdering Private First Class Kelli Bordeaux.
So I just snapped and zoned out and hit her.
And he'd led private investigator David Marshburn and his cadaver dog to a shallow grave where Holbert had buried her body.
So we dig down, we find a little piece of the jacket. So we're digging again, and we find the leg bone. And we dig again. There's the whole jacket. We take the jacket and pull the whole jacket back, and there she is. Described with the bag on her head, the whole 9 yards. I said a little prayer. I said, "Baby girl, you going home? You going home, baby girl?" And she gets back, and I'm starting to tear up now.
Holbert would be arrested and subsequently pled guilty to first-degree murder. But P.I. Marshburn had mixed emotions about finally solving the mystery of what happened to Kelli.
It's just about like meeting somebody that you hadn't seen for a long time.
And getting to bring her home.
The family has closure.
It's extremely unfair. She was a great person.
But finally learning what happened to Kelli is little comfort to those who still mourn her, including her estranged husband, Mike, and her boyfriend, Justin.
She will always be in my heart and in my mind forever. Like, we're still married.
It's terrible.
And the pain and suffering Nicholas Holbert inflicted upon Kelli and her survivors made Marshburn want to do the same to him.
You not only killed her, but you raped her. You're a sick and you need to be put away forever.
I mean, that guy is the epitome of the devil to me. I literally, Nicholas Holbert and the devil are together in my head.
But nobody was as furious as Kelli's older brother, Matt.
All I could think about, honestly, was just, I'm gonna stab this guy.
And some were worried that Matt just might do something just like that at Holbert's sentencing hearing.
I had to said a few things, and then me and the judge, like, kind of locked eyes, and I think he realized I was, like, gonna freak out.
In fact, Matt became so enraged and vocal that a judge ordered him to be removed from the courtroom, where he admitted to local TV reporters.
Honestly, what I thought would happen is I would just assault him, so it was a good thing that the judge kicked me out.
Holbert tried to apologize to Kelli's family.
You and your family probably didn't want to hear anything I had to say.
And he was right.
When he's trying to read his apology the whole time, all I'm thinking is just shut up.
Mr. Holbert, could you look at me for a minute?
And Kelli's mother, Jonna, demanded he listen to her instead.
I don't understand. How? You could take a beautiful young girl for pretty much no reason and beat the life right out of her.
Nicholas Holbert would be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. All thanks to David Marshburn, the dogged private detective who single-handedly brought him to justice and solved the Kelli Bordeaux mystery.
Not even for his own personal gain, and that's the thing is, like, he's doing it for my family, and we don't even know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he's doing this just because he wants to be able to make that difference. It's astronomical. It's more than my family can even show gratitude for.
And the Fayetteville police admit they could have never closed the case without him.
Are you glad Dave was so persistent?
Oh, absolutely. He could do things that the police cannot do. I'm glad he was persistent because it brings closure to the Bordeaux family.
Marshburn admits there were times he almost gave up.
Every day I was exhausted having to go search for this girl. I was muddy, I was cut, I got sick, I was just fed up with it. I was tired of his games.
But he says he felt morally bound to keep going for the sake of Kelli and her family, and saw it as donating his time, skill, and money to a worthy cause.
Is this your way of giving back?
That's the only way I give back. That's the only way I feel like it gets back to God's children, people that need it.
And the reward is seeing Nicholas Holbert behind bars.
Kind of fits, and you act like an animal, you get treated like one. He deserves it.
At his sentencing, Holbert asked Kelli's family if one day they could find it in their hearts to forgive him. At this point, her brother and sister say they can't see that ever happening, and I certainly can't blame them.